for most of the state, what you do on your land is going to affect the coast somewhere along the way. We're all responsible for this. In my opinion, we need to focus on a few things. We need to make sure that our infrastructure for waste treatment is up to snuff. We need to make sure that we have good plans in place for growth.
So we're also working in partnership with the Nueces River Authority and several local communities to try and address failing and malfunctioning septic systems in a lot more of our rural communities where the infrastructure is aging. And so we're trying to partner with them to look at ways to improve their wastewater treatment plants.
One of the biggest issues that we have with those plants is most of them were built in the 70s and 80s. Most of them have about a 30-year life cycle, which would have put them over in the early 2000s. Their capacities are already at maximum, and you get all this new growth that wastewater has to go somewhere. And then you have your drinking supplies. We all draw water from the same place as well. So as your growth comes, your water supply becomes an issue in the future.
You're talking about social implications, planning implications, environmental implications. You're talking about all these different things that impact everyone at the end of the day.
We need to think about non-traditional partners. This is a business issue. This is not just an environmental issue. And if we're going to address these issues for our economy, for our health, and for our Texas coast, then we need to work together through agencies, economic, environmental, and social.
Partnerships is the answer to many things. The Stormwater Task Force that exists now has led us to be able to create an awareness with our neighbors to the west of how important this whole region is, not only to the water in the Laguna Madre, but the ecosystem that we live in.
When we really talk about how we're gonna, monumentally change water quality, the one vulnerability that we really need to address going forward is to protect from water's powerful effects. Every time we see the Gulf of Mexico churn up, we see coastal erosion occur. When we lose habitat, we lose birds. When we lose birds, our ecosystem changes. There used to be places not too far from here in the bay that were so prolific for oysters that that's all you could see. Today, we seek to actually try and seed oysters to get them to grow.
Oysters do a tremendous job of cleaning and filtering our water. A single oyster, I think, can clean about 50 gallons of water a day on its own. They protect our coast from erosion, from storms. They provide habitat for a lot of the other fish that are out there. It goes well beyond just the oyster harvesting itself.
You have to have a good supply of oxygen for marine life. Without ample oxygen, the oysters can't live, and from a water quality standpoint is in our shallow bays and estuaries, if you get enough prolonged low oxygen, it can actually enhance the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus that comes back out of the sediments into the water, and it triggers more algae blooms. Everyday people can pay attention to the amount of fertilizer they use on their lawns. Don't pollute. Don't litter. Pay attention to things in your community.
There's no such thing as a disposable wipes. That is a misnomer, and every time you flush one of those things down the toilet, it ends up clogging up those lift stations and it clogs our system. Don't flush down oils and greases when you're cooking, because that also clogs the system. So those are two easy steps that local citizens can do just to improve their local wastewater plants.
Local government has a very important role in setting the framework to achieve good water quality down here. We have an important role on being on the front line and communicating with folks, creating the structure for them to appropriately behave, but the big issues of managing water, volume control, quality was really going to have to be a partnership.
3 things that our local governments can do: make sure that we're maintaining our infrastructure properly, have education programs for our residents so that they are aware of what's important to do, as much as we can to promote low impact development and green infrastructure.
It's very important to us to keep the green space and keep that natural drainage that can happen with green space, and then just not having concrete to drain everywhere. We all can work together to make sure that we all have the same outlook of how we need to further on with our drainage and our stormwater runoff in the future. Knowledge is power. That's how we get things done.